Good afternoon, traders. It's Bill Baruch with Blue Line Futures, and this is the FX Rundown. There's two key takeaways today and one still to come. First, CPI. That number was ultimately in line with expectations, but the year-over-year number came in soft, or let's call it a miss, for the third straight month. The month-over-month core CPI was in line with expectations, but it did miss the last two. Let's see if Fed Chair Powell talks about this tonight. He is that big takeaway to come. At 5 p.m. Central Time, he's going to move the markets. Likely going to talk about inflation. CPI, again, it hasn't been there. Inflation's not pushing higher. The Fed has been very hawkish. Are they going to keep this rhetoric? Now, PPI has come in hot, but that's because of the trade numbers. Or the trade conflict is pushing that inflation number up higher. So the CPI, more closely watched indicator, really hasn't followed. So let's see what the Fed has to say, what Powell says tonight. It's going to move the currencies. And the other key takeaway is Theresa May, the British Prime Minister. She's getting that support from cabinet ministers, and she's fighting that uphill battle, powering through. There's still some to go. It's not quite there, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. The British pound responded. You're seeing the dollar index today get hit pretty hard. It's leaving a big tail on the week. Look for this. Now we have some support at 96. A move below 96 is going to signal a failure, and they're going to leave that tail in the week. It could gather steam to the downside. Now on the flip side, you have the euro, 57% of that dollar index. The euro is pushing into resistance, and we have that on the FX Rundown. Let's call it about 113.30, right there around that area. We've been saying all week, a move back above there neutralizes the extreme weakness we saw to start the week. So watch for that. It's still a big uphill battle there for the euro to really start to move, but it could become constructive given that bottom. We have, again, Fed Chair Powell tonight. Look for that. And then he again talks tomorrow, 10:30. So it's going to move the currencies. Just stay nimble, manage your risk. But again, the dollar index forming a failure that we think could start to roll over if the Fed changes their tone. Moving on to the yen, we've called it a very unenthusiastic trade. Nothing's changed. It still is facing first key resistance above. We had that in the FX Rundown. Go check it out. Until it closes above there, there's really not much to think that this thing could gather steam. A very unenthusiastic trade. But just again, be careful. If the stocks start to sell off, you're going to see the safe haven demands. The yen is up a little bit, about a quarter of a point on the day, but did not respond in the way gold did or the way that treasuries did, especially considering that the dollar index is down or the dollar overall is down. The yen, very disappointing session. Now, for the Aussie, employment data tonight. However, we did talk about this last night. Actually, a very constructive hold yesterday, or coming into yesterday. The picture was very negative coming into yesterday, and then it just stopped on a dime on the U.S. and China trade talks. Now, take a look at this. If these talks turn positive, and there is some traction here, the Aussie has some good upside. It's already shown that it wants to rally or can rally. Tonight, that employment data is going to be important, but on a technical basis, there is a potential cup and handle forming. We need to see a move out above major 3-star resistance. It's on the FX Rundown. Go check it out. It's out there. It was out last night. And then lastly, the Canadian dollar. There's a lot of support down below 76, all the way down to 75. It's been a tough trade to try to find that ground, but earlier in the week or last week, you started to hear about the NAFTA write-up, and ultimately you started seeing the Canadian lose some footing. Crude oil, 12 straight losing sessions, barely clung to a positive session today. It's all dragging on the Canadian dollar. But there is some support. You got to see the overall broader sentiment in markets turn more positive in order to help that Canadian dollar, and you need to see the U.S. dollar weaken. There's a lot going on. Again, Fed Chair Powell tonight, going to be a big one. Give us a call. We're here to help. We're here to talk about anything on the board. 312-278-0500. Email's info@bluelinefutures.com. You can check our website for updates, and you can sign up for a free trial of our research. But remember, futures trading involves substantial risk of loss. It's not suitable for all investors. Thank you.